This is the 2025 Ducati Multistrada V2S Travel, and this bike is more than just an update on last year's model. It is essentially a completely new offering. Now, I'm trying to be less stat heavy in these reviews because, quite frankly, if you're interested in this bike, you would have already scoured the Ducati website and picked up all the key features. But as this is almost a completely new bike, it would be remiss of me not to mention those changes, albeit briefly. So let's start with the engine, which is still the classic 90-degree V-twin, but this one features variable valve timing, and at just over 54 kilos, it's the lightest twin-cylinder engine ever to come out of the Bormio factory. Now, one thing that's put the cat amongst the pigeons with this bike is the engine capacity. The previous model Testa Stretta was 937cc. This one is 890cc. But peak power has been increased from 113 horsepower previously to 115.6 on this particular model. Some of the V2s push that up to 120 horsepower. So I'll look at whether that's actually noticeable when I come to the riding section. Peak torque sits at 92 Newton meters, but because of the variable valve timing, Ducati say that torque is now available over a much wider spread of revs. Turning to the chassis, again, it's a big change. Gone is the steel tube trellis, replaced with an aluminium monocoque chassis, just like its big brother, the V4. It's been on a diet too, with Ducati claiming a wet weight, although that's a wet weight with an empty tank of fuel, of 202 kilos, and that's for the V2S model. Given the 19-litre fuel tank, we're looking at 217 kilograms roughly broomed with fuel. The previous model was quoted at 225 kilograms in weight, so that's about an 8.5 kilo difference, but I was surprised when riding it to find that it feels like much more. This particular model, the V2S Travel, comes as standard with the hard plastic panniers. According to the Ducati website, a centre stand, although that appears to be missing from this bike, and it also comes as standard with heated grips. If you buy it in Ducati Red, it will set you back £17,590. And if you want it in this lovely looking matte storm green, you're going to have to cough up another £400 on top of that. But to be honest, for me, I think that's worth it. Ducati purists can fight me in the comments. The list of kit and features on this bike is long and full, but I think I'm better looking at those key features whilst I'm out riding. So let's get cracking. So I've got the bike out on one of my usual routes. I've got a mix of roads. I know what the road surfaces are like. It just kind of gives me a little bit of an even playing field when I'm comparing bikes. Let's start then with ergonomics, which seems like a good place to start. Now, as soon as I jumped on this bike, it did feel just a little bit more slim and compact than the previous model. And it's a bike that I found instantly comfortable. To give you a reference point, I'm 5'10" or 178 centimeters, and I have an inside leg of 32 inches. And with the seat in its highest position of 850 millimeters, because it's nice and slim here in the middle, you can drop it down 20 millimeters to 830. There is a low seat option. If you fit that, you're down to 8 to 10 millimeters. And there's also a lowering kit, so if you have the low seat and the lowering kit together, then your seat height's down to 790 millimeters. I also noticed when I first jumped on here how wide these bars are. It's a really nice broad position on the bars, opens your shoulders up, but it does also mean that you've got lots of leverage, and quick turns are very simple on this, and we'll touch on that when we talk about the handling. I talked about the height of the seat. I haven't really talked about the comfort, and so far on the rides that I've done, where I've probably done a maximum of 2 hours, I've had no problems with it. I think it's a pretty comfortable option. You will notice that there is a change in the controls here, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when I talk about electronics in general. But gone is the little joystick. You've now got this 4-way button control, which I think works really well. I've got a mode button on the top here.
So if I press that, it will cycle through. So I'm in touring mode. I can go to urban, enduro, wet, which is a new mode, sport, and back to touring. I've actually found touring to be pretty good now. You can see you've got all the little bits on the right hand side for the ABS and the traction control and wheelie control and all those little bits and pieces. Now, whereas normally you'd have to go through the menus to make any changes to the set modes if you wanted to do that, Ducati have now included a option within that menu to be able to change it. Now, it doesn't work on the fly for understandable reasons, so if I just pull over and show you. Oh my god, that's a big hole. If I press mode, you see I've got the touring mode, but if I go down, I've now got touring setup. So that means I can go in and change any of these, and it does the same for urban, it does the same for enduro, wet, sport, and then back to touring. You'd also would have noticed that there is a little bit that shows you what the suspension setting is on that, and obviously each mode has its individual settings for suspension with Sky Hook, but Ducati have included a button over here, so if I press that button I can actually change through comfort, low grip or dynamic. So I've just got it in comfort, so you've got the ability to actually change the suspension settings on the fly without going into individual menus, which I think is a really good thing. As usual, we've got nice Ducati touches. The wing mirrors are lovely, really good view out of those. They've got them out nice and wide. I've got virtually no shoulder in those when I look at that. That's really good. Wind protection from the screen is, I think, excellent. At the highest position I can open my visor and I'm getting very little wind on my eyes, but if I put it down to the lower position I do actually get a nice flow of air. We've got these new little deflectors at the bottom there which do a pretty good job at pushing the wind around you. And the thing about that screen as well, which Ducati always seem to get right and other manufacturers struggle with, is the operating system for it. Yes, electronic screens are nice, but they add a little bit of complication, they add a bit of weight, but you don't need one. When you can adjust the screen with one finger, that's fine, and if you want to go to the settings in between you can just give it a tap. Really, really good. They just get it right. It's simple, but outside of that, ergonomics are good. The peg position is nice, not too high, it's just a little bit set back, so you've got a semi-sporty position, I guess. You're still very upright, but you are canted a little bit forward. But as I say, overall, really lovely place to be. It feels very slim in the middle here. Nice wide bars, comfy seat, excellent riding position. The TFT screen is nice, just a 5-inch TFT screen on here, which when you compare that to some of the competition that have virtual huge tablets on there, seems pretty small, but it's clear, it's easy to read. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think you really need anything bigger than this. It shows you all of the key information and doesn't waste space on stuff that you don't need with fancy graphics and all that. Yeah, you've got those when you go into the menus, you get pictures of the bike and you can see all the bits and pieces, but for practicality when riding, nice and clear. It goes from white to black. You can set that, or you can have it change automatically when you go from light to dark. It's nicely done. And you've got this little USB port here as well, which is good. A lot of bikes forget to put something there. They'll put it under the seat or something, but you can pop that open. You've got a little USB-A port. Ergonomically, super comfortable bike and an absolute pleasure to ride. Let's talk about the engine, because that's obviously put the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit amongst the Ducati purists. As I've already mentioned, it's dropped down from 937cc on the Tesla Strata motor to 890. Power is up slightly, so 2.5 horsepower difference. Is that really noticeable? Well, the answer to that is actually yes, and I think that's down to the variable valve timing that they've got on this and that torque spread. So the torque is a relatively flat curve. Torque's down a little bit on the previous model, but it seems to be available over a much broader spread. You're getting kind of 75% of that torque between 3,500 onwards. So the bike itself feels more sprightly. It feels a little bit more aggressive, a little bit snarly, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a very docile bike to ride around town, as you see, but it's just got, you know, a little bit of a underneath it. And it's been a while since I've ridden the previous V2, but from memory this definitely feels more sprightly. There's a definite edge to it. There's a nice exhaust note from this as well. You get a good bark. I don't think you need any more power than this on a bike like this. Yeah, you've got the V4, which is an absolute beast of a bike. Tons and tons of power, but for normal road riding, this is great. It's going to be good for touring. It's going to have a better fuel economy than the V4, that's for sure. Nice and flexible in terms of that torque. You can see I only really dropped it down to 4th gear there. It's a glorious engine. I really like it. When I first jumped on it, I did think, oh, it's a bit vibey, and I was feeling the vibes through the seat, not necessarily through the bars or the pegs, which I thought was strange. But then I tried to feel it again, and I'm not experiencing it. And I think what it is you get a little bit of vibration until the engine warms up, and then it seems to go away. But there is still a little bit of vibe from this engine, and I'm generally finding it between 4.5 and 5,000 revs. So here, fine, usual vibes you'd expect from a twin. There, and it's gone. So there's just between 4.5 and 5.5, you just feel a little bit of vibes coming through, and then it goes again. Is it a problem? No. Is it something that would put me off buying the bike or riding the bike? Not at all. It is a motorcycle. Yeah, people talk about vibrations, they talk about wind and everything else. It's a motorcycle. Yeah, some bikes are obviously smoother than others, but this I think is nice. It's a lovely feeling engine. And whilst we're talking about the engine, I suppose it's probably worth talking about the handling, because that is very good. It's very precise. What I would describe as a neutral handling bike. There's no kind of weird traits to it. Steering is super precise, it's very flickable, it just holds its line. Even on higher speed corners you can tip it in with a lot of confidence, and it's just like, yep, nice and stable, no dramas. And I'm in the comfort setting, remember, as well, for the suspension, so it's not even, you know, rock solid hard, but it is lovely. It's such a nice bike in that sense. You can have a hell of a lot of fun on this. It's what you'd want from a touring bike. You can put luggage on it, you can put your pillion on it, and you can traverse continents in comfort, but you can also get to a nice piece of road, take your panniers off, dump your pillion and go and scratch it around, and it's immense fun. A very satisfying bike to ride. And the quick shifter is absolutely sublime as well. I've had no issues with that at all. It's smooth, it's slick, no missed shifts. We're just coming into Steeple Bumstead, which means I'm going to have to stop and visit my favourite coffee stop, which is the Portobello Coffee Company. I found this bike, so I just saw the signs one day, pulled in. Coffee is fantastic, the cakes and sandwiches are good, and Keely, who runs it, is lovely. Always happy to have a chat. So I've had my coffee stop. Lovely people, Keely and her husband, and the coffee is very good, as are the cakes and sandwiches. Anyway, advertisement over. Let's get on with talking about the bike. So what else can I talk about this bike? Well, I suppose styling. I don't really talk about styling that much, or I'll talk about it to a lesser extent in reviews now, because it's very subjective. You know, some people will love the look of bikes. You know, there's a whole host of people out there that are in love with the R1250 GS, absolutely love that. I personally think it's pig ugly. So my views on aesthetics are largely irrelevant. It's beauty in the eye of the beholder, but they have changed quite a lot of styling on this. So the one thing I like about this is they've reduced the size of the beak. I think I've made it known in previous reviews I'm not really a massive fan of beaks on bikes, but this is a little bit more rounded, a little bit flatter in profile. They've changed the fairing, and with the bike being slightly shorter than the previous one, it looks right. The proportions look right, but it's just really nice touches. Everything is just nicely finished. The bars, the clamps, you've got that little red accent on the back of the rear subframe. It is a bike that I would own. I would love one of these for what I do and how I ride. It's a good all-rounder. I can come out and explore country lanes like this. I could shove the luggage on it and go touring, although I would probably buy the V2S non-travel. The beauty of the hard plastic cases that are designed for the bike, they just snap on and off incredibly easily, but they are limited a little bit in terms of luggage size. So, you know, you can't get a helmet in there, for example. I would rather probably just strap a nice 40-litre dry bag over the back seat and be done with it. Just over 17.5 for the V2S Travel. You're looking at about £1,000 or so less for the V2S. Then you've just got the V2 that sits below that. Still a very nice bike, but you don't get the Skyhook semi-active suspension. It's fully adjustable, but you don't get the beauty of that electronic adjustment and electronic damping. Now, obviously I've talked a little bit about electronics. I've showed you how you change the modes and stuff. I don't know how much detail really it's worth going into. You've got cruise control. I hadn't mentioned that, but it's not adaptive cruise control. It's just a standard cruise control. Very easy to operate, pretty intuitive. I do like these new controls, no problems with that, and I don't really think there's anything else that I need to add into this. I just wanted to give you an impression of what the bike is like to ride, cover off some of the key numbers. I'm more interested in how it makes you feel, and this bike makes me feel happy. I really enjoy riding it. It's fuel efficient, so at the moment 52.8 miles per gallon on the current trip that I've been doing. That's pretty good, and I think given the consumption, this 19 litres, you could probably squeeze 200 miles out of this. As I say, I've ridden all of the iterations from the Multistrada 950 onwards. Is this the best so far? I think it is. So I'm going to make the most of this lovely weather and this beautiful bike, and I'm going to head back to myself to wrap up.
So there you go. They're my key thoughts and impressions of this bike after riding it for a little while, but I'll be interested to hear your thoughts, so drop them in the comment section down below. It is a very well spec'd bike. It looks beautiful, it's comfortable, it goes really well. It's got a little bit of aggression to it and a bit raspy, but if you want to ride it in a docile manner, it's quite happy to do that. I think it is a perfect touring bike. Lots of features on here that you'll use and will be very handy. And as I've said at the beginning, I've been a big fan of this platform. I nearly bought a 950 and I ended up buying a KTM 1050 Adventure instead because it was several £1,000s cheaper. I'm still not entirely sure whether that was the right decision or not, but it is a very, very good bike. And if it's a bike you're interested in, I will urge you to go out and test ride one at your local dealer if you get the chance. So as I said, any questions, any comments, drop those down below. And all that leaves me to say is until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.